narrator. Welcome back to the English Learning Podcast's Intermediate Guide series. Today we're delving into one of the most subtle yet powerful aspects of human communication, describing abstract feelings and moods. It's easy to say, "I'm happy" or "I'm sad," but truly conveying the nuanced emotional landscape within us, the subtle shifts, the complex blends of feelings, or the pervasive atmosphere of a mood, requires a richer vocabulary and a deeper understanding of emotional expression. This skill is vital for connecting authentically with others, whether sharing a personal experience, creating a fictional narrative, or simply understanding ourselves better. How do you move beyond basic emotional labels to paint a vivid picture of your inner state, evoking empathy and clarity in your listener? What linguistic tools allow you to capture the subtle shades of contentment, the lingering shadows of melancholy, or the sudden surge of inspiration? And crucially, how do you select the most precise words and metaphors to articulate feelings that often defy simple definition, ensuring your descriptions are both accurate and relatable? This episode is designed to equip you with the essential vocabulary, evocative techniques, and practical insights necessary to approach the articulation of abstract feelings and moods with confidence, sensitivity, and profound authenticity. Today's discussion moves beyond simple adjectives, exploring the power of sensory imagery, figurative language, and the interplay between emotion and thought. We are privileged to host a conversation between Dr. Serafina Vance, a renowned cognitive psychologist specializing in emotional intelligence at the University of Cambridge, UK, and Ms. Luna Sharma, an acclaimed poet and expressive arts therapist who uses language to explore inner worlds from her studio in Kyoto, Japan. Their dialogue will illuminate the best practices and common pitfalls in describing abstract feelings and moods, offering you a richer understanding of how to transform internal experiences into resonant, shareable narratives. So, let's explore the intricacies and liberating power of truly mastering the description of abstract feelings and moods. Serafina, Luna, it's a genuine pleasure to finally connect with you. Your work as a poet and therapist must constantly involve navigating the complexities of human emotion. From your perspective, when someone wants to describe an abstract feeling or mood, what are your initial, most crucial considerations for them to keep in mind? Is it about finding a perfect synonym, or is there a preliminary step of internal exploration? Luna, Serafina, the pleasure is entirely mutual. Your psychological insights provide such a vital framework for understanding the emotional landscape. When someone wants to describe an abstract feeling or mood, my initial consideration is always a preliminary step of internal exploration rather than immediately searching for a perfect synonym. It's crucial to first pause and observe the feeling without judgment. Where do I feel it in my body? What images or memories does it bring to mind? What are its qualities? Is it heavy or light, sharp or dull, fleeting or lingering? This deeper sensory and associative awareness allows for a more authentic and precise description. My foundational groundwork always involves asking, what is this feeling like? What does it do? Do you find that a failure to engage in this initial introspection is a common pitfall leading to generic or inaccurate descriptions? Serafina, absolutely, Luna. Your emphasis on preliminary internal exploration and sensory observation is unequivocally fundamental. A failure to engage in this initial introspection is indeed one of the most common and detrimental pitfalls, often leading to generic descriptions that lack depth, resonance, or personal truth. Without that internal snapshot, expressions can feel hollow or borrowed. My research shows that cultivating emotional granularity, the ability to put feelings into words with a high degree of specificity, significantly enhances emotional regulation and overall well-being. What specific linguistic strategies do you employ to articulate nuanced moods or complex emotional states, moving beyond basic adjectives like happy or sad? Luna, that's where sensory imagery, figurative language, and evocative verbs become paramount, Serafina. My primary strategy for articulating nuanced moods involves appealing to the senses and using comparisons. Instead of just saying "I'm anxious," I might describe the physical manifestation. I feel a tight knot in my stomach, or my thoughts are racing like wild horses. For a mood, I might use a metaphor. The day has a heavy gray pallor about it, or I'm feeling a sense of quiet contentment like a warm blanket. I also use verbs that convey subtle actions or states. A feeling of unease began to creep in, or joy bubbled up from deep inside. I focus on details that are associative, connecting the feeling to a relatable experience or image. For example, for a feeling of bittersweet nostalgia, I might say, it's like listening to an old, beloved song on a rainy afternoon, a mix of warmth and gentle longing. Do you find that a fear of being overly poetic or misunderstood sometimes prevents individuals from using such rich, descriptive language? Serafina. That's an excellent approach, Luna, and your use of sensory imagery, figurative language, and evocative verbs is precisely what allows for rich emotional expression. And yes, a fear of appearing overly poetic or being misunderstood, or perhaps a societal pressure to keep emotions simple, often prevents individuals from using such rich, descriptive language. Paradoxically, this can lead to feeling even more misunderstood, as the depth of their experience isn't conveyed. My research suggests that listeners often appreciate the effort to articulate complexity, even if it's not perfectly captured. What role does acknowledging the fluidity and complexity of emotions play in discussing feelings, and how do you verbally express these shifts or blends? Luna. Acknowledging the fluidity and complexity of emotions is absolutely central to authentic discussion, Serafina. Emotions are rarely static or singular. They flow, blend, and transform. I verbally express these shifts or blends by using conjunctions and transitional phrases that show interplay. For a blend, I might say, I'm feeling a strange mix of excitement and apprehension, or, there's an underlying current of sadness despite the surface cheerfulness. For a shift, I'd use phrases like, my initial frustration began to give way to a sense of resignation, or the anger I felt earlier has now morphed into a quiet disappointment. I also use terms that denote degrees or intensity, a slight unease, a profound sense of peace, or a flicker of hope. This language helps to paint a more honest and dynamic portrait of the inner emotional landscape, inviting understanding rather than demanding simple categorization. How do you approach the challenge of discussing difficult or uncomfortable abstract feelings, e.g., shame, envy, despair, without making yourself or others uncomfortable or defensive? Serafina. Luna, your emphasis on expressing emotional fluidity and complexity through nuanced language is incredibly insightful for capturing the true human experience. The challenge of discussing difficult or uncomfortable abstract feelings requires a careful balance of vulnerability, self-compassion, and intentional framing to avoid discomfort or defensiveness. My approach focuses on normalization and depersonalization. I frame these feelings as universal human experiences, rather than individual failures, using phrases like, it's completely natural to feel a sense of envy when, or, many people experience moments of profound despair, and it's a valid human emotion. I also encourage expressing the feeling as a temporary state rather than a permanent identity. I'm experiencing shame right now, instead of I am shameful. I use metaphors that externalize the feeling, making it less directly threatening. It feels like a heavy cloud has descended, or a wave of disappointment washed over me. When someone else is sharing, I offer validation without judgment. That sounds incredibly challenging, or, it's brave of you to articulate that. The key is to create psychological safety. What are the common pitfalls individuals fall into when trying to describe abstract feelings and moods, and how can they be avoided? Luna. Serafina, your strategies for normalization, depersonalization, and externalizing difficult feelings are profoundly effective for creating psychological safety. The common pitfalls individuals fall into when trying to describe abstract feelings and moods often include oversimplification, reducing complex emotions to basic generic terms, I'm just fine, when a deeper feeling is present. Another pitfall is vague or ambiguous language, failing to use specific details that allow others to truly grasp the nuances. Intellectualizing feelings is also common, talking about an emotion in an analytical way rather than experiencing or expressing it. Some might engage in comparative suffering, downplaying their own emotions because someone else has it worse, which invalidates their experience. There's also the pitfall of relying solely on clichés without adding personal color or unique sensory details. Lastly, avoiding emotional language altogether is a significant pitfall, leading to a disconnect between internal experience and external communication. To avoid these, individuals should practice self-compassion and allow themselves to feel the full spectrum of emotions. They should use sensory details and figurative language to make the abstract concrete. They should focus on feeling words rather than purely intellectual explanations. They should validate their own experiences regardless of others' situations. They should dare to be specific and original in their descriptions. And crucially, they should embrace vulnerability as a pathway to genuine connection. How do you believe the increasing reliance on emojis and short-form digital communication impacts people's ability to describe abstract feelings and moods in nuanced verbal language, for better or worse? Serafina. Luna, your comprehensive list of pitfalls and practical avoidance strategies, especially embracing vulnerability, is invaluable for cultivating emotional authenticity. The increasing reliance on emojis and short-form digital communication has a complex and often contradictory impact on people's ability to describe abstract feelings and moods in nuanced verbal language. On one hand, emojis provide an immediate, universally recognized shorthand for basic emotions, which can be useful for quick communication and conveying tone where text alone might fail. They offer a simple way to express emotional states without lengthy explanations, potentially breaking down barriers for those who struggle with verbal articulation. However, the worse side is significant. This shorthand can foster emotional shorthand, discouraging the development of a richer, more precise emotional vocabulary. Instead of saying, "I feel a deep sense of contentment," like the quiet hum of a perfectly balanced machine, one might just send a smiling emoji. This can lead to superficial emotional literacy, where the vast spectrum of human feeling is reduced to a limited set of predefined icons. It also removes the necessity for introspection and the careful crafting of language needed to convey nuance. So, while convenient for quick exchanges, it often risks atrophying the very muscles of verbal emotional expression, making it harder to articulate complex inner states when deeper communication is required. In your final analysis, what are the ultimate rewards or transformations that an individual gains from truly mastering the art of describing abstract feelings and moods effectively? Luna. Serafina, your astute analysis of emojis and their contradictory impact, particularly the risk of emotional shorthand and atrophied verbal muscles, perfectly captures the modern challenge. The ultimate rewards or transformations that an individual gains from truly mastering the art of describing abstract feelings and moods effectively are manifold and deeply liberating. It cultivates profound self-understanding and emotional intelligence, allowing one to navigate their inner world with greater clarity and compassion. This leads to significantly stronger and more authentic interpersonal connections, as vulnerability and precise expression foster empathy and a deeper bond with others. A proficient individual gains enhanced resilience and coping abilities, as the act of naming and articulating feelings can often reduce their intensity and provide a pathway for processing. It empowers them to advocate for their own needs more effectively and to set healthier boundaries. Beyond personal benefits, it enriches their capacity for creative expression in various forms, from writing to art, by tapping into the wellspring of human experience. Perhaps most profoundly, mastering this art transforms the inner world from an elusive, chaotic space into a comprehensible and shareable tapestry, fostering a greater sense of peace, validation, and belonging. It's the difference between merely having feelings and truly understanding and communicating them. Narrator. What an exceptionally illuminating and profound conversation with Dr. Serafina Vance and Ms. Luna Sharma. Their expert insights have masterfully illuminated the critical nuances involved in describing abstract feelings and moods, from the importance of internal exploration and sensory language to navigating difficult emotions and the impact of digital communication. Their dialogue powerfully underscores that effective emotional expression is not just about words, but about self-awareness, authenticity, and fostering deeper human connection. Now, let's consolidate some of the key vocabulary and concepts from their rich dialogue that you can integrate into your own emotional vocabulary and conversations. Practice session. Expressing yourself. Let's revisit some valuable phrases and concepts from today's in-depth episode. Practice using these in your own descriptions of feelings and moods. Preliminary step of internal exploration. An initial stage of looking inward to understand one's feelings. Unequivocally fundamental. Absolutely essential or crucial. Emotional granularity. The ability to put feelings into words with high specificity. Sensory imagery. Language that appeals to the five senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. Figurative language. Language that uses figures of speech like metaphors or similes for effect, e.g., thoughts racing like wild horses. Evocative verbs. Verbs that create strong images or feelings, e.g., crept in, bubbled up. Fluidity and complexity of emotions. The idea that emotions are rarely static or simple but change and blend. Normalization and depersonalization. Framing feelings as normal human experiences, not personal flaws. Emotional shorthand. Using simple, limited ways to express emotions like emojis. Manifold and deeply liberating. Many and having a very positive and freeing effect. Choose 3 of these phrases and use them to describe an abstract feeling or mood you have experienced. For example, before I could explain my anxiety to my friend, I had to take a preliminary step of internal exploration to understand the fluidity and complexity of emotions I was feeling. It wasn't just anxiousness, but a strange mix of excitement and unease. I've been trying to improve my emotional granularity, using evocative verbs like, a wave of calm washed over me, instead of just, I felt peaceful, which feels more honest. Sometimes relying on emotional shorthand, with emojis, prevents me from truly expressing how I feel. But I'm working on using more sensory imagery to make my abstract feelings more relatable. Narrator. As Dr. Serafina Vance and Ms. Luna Sharma so eloquently articulated, mastering the art of describing abstract feelings and moods is a skill that empowers you to connect more deeply with yourself and others. It's about cultivating self-awareness, embracing the richness of your inner world, and transforming intangible emotions into vivid, shareable experiences. By embracing specific vocabulary, evocative techniques, and the courage to be vulnerable, you can make your emotional landscape comprehensible and profoundly authentic. Until our next insightful discussion on the English Learning Podcast, keep feeling, keep exploring, and keep expressing.